Livingston Family Dentistry knows the value of a healthy, beautiful smile. With over 30 years of experience, Dr. Ronald and Dr. Blake Livingston and their friendly staff are committed to making you feel comfortable, informed, and satisfied. So whether it's routine dentistry, cosmetic improvement, or complete restoration, bring your smile back to life at Livingston Family Dentistry, located at 13724 Woodward in Highland Park. Call now, 313-883-3050. If your teeth are not becoming to you,
then you should be coming to us.
Livingston Family Dentistry knows that good dental care ensures overall wellness, and healthy teeth and gums can perfect your smile. With over 30 years of experience, Dr. Ronald and Dr. Blake Livingston take the time to explain every treatment. Their modern office and friendly staff are committed to making you feel comfortable, informed, and satisfied. Located at 13724 Woodward in Highland Park, call now, 313-883-3050. If your teeth are not becoming to you,
then you should be coming to us.
Good morning, and welcome to Table Talk with Brenda Perryman. I am here with two of my favorite co-hosts. All of them are my favorite, really. But let's start at my left, your right, with... You're on my left.
Yeah,
They're right.
Yeah. Good morning. My name is Darnell McLaurin. I'm a civil servant as well as a union director. And I just want to say, excuse me this morning, I'm coming down from a cold. I've been coughing like... Hillary Clinton at a...
I was watching that. Were you tortured or what?
Bear with me, please.
All right, Darnell. I'm Ken Coleman, our author and historian.
Yes, and we'll be talking a little bit about this author because he has something big coming up next week,
yes.
And I'm excited about it. And then the motorcycle gang has something coming up. And
tomorrow. We have an event tomorrow as well.
Oh, it's tomorrow. Oh, you have two events?
Well, we have an event tomorrow, which is our...
And then 9/11.
Right, but 9/11 is Sunday, but tomorrow event is the Walk Against Violence. If you remember, there were 10 people that were shot at the Dexter Elmhurst Community Center.
Yes.
And so we organized a walk last year, so this will be the second annual walk. And it'll start at 2 p.m. in front of the firehouse on Dexter and Ewald Circle, and it'll end up at the community center where there'll be food and drinks and a lot of games and stuff for the kids. So it's our second annual Stop the Violence walk.
Where does that start again?
It starts at the corner of Dexter and Ewald Circle.
Yeah, at the firehouse, right?
And the registration is at noon, and the walk begins at 2 p.m.
Good stuff.
Yes.
Okay. Speaking of Ken Coleman, I have this book right here.
Great book.
On this day in African American life in Detroit.
My greatest fan.
I give you a play every week.
You should send me an invoice.
Yeah, I could be doing one of my poems, but instead I do you.
I appreciate that too. I really do.
In 1925, a white mob attacks the home of Dr. Ossian Sweet, an African American. And he only moved over there. This is at 2905 Garland Street. And he only moved over there because it was across the street from a school and a playground. And they had a little girl. He and his wife did. Anyway, it's located, you got the right address, 2905 Garland Street on the city's Lower East Side. They hadn't been there 3 days before the mounds of people started gathering around the house, and then they started throwing rocks at the house, but they were armed in the house. And Dr. Sweet's brother shot outside and killed a white man, Leon Briner, I think that was his name.
And Henry Sweet was the brother.
Yes.
Yeah.
Wow. That was... I did a play based on that.
And for people that don't know, a lot of people do, but some may not, the house still is there. There's a Michigan historical marker in front of it. And, that's a neighborhood where a lot of the housing has been demolished over the years, but that home, and getting really close to 100 years now, still
Yeah.
sits.
But they didn't take care of it as well as I would have liked because what's his name? Daniel?
Daniel Baxter's family owned it for many years. I don't think they still own it now.
Okay.
But they actually, his family actually bought it from Dr. Sweet, I think in the late 50s or early 60s. But well, it would have been the late 50s. Dr. Sweet, interestingly enough, committed suicide in March of 1960.
Yes, he
Wow.
did. Yes, he
He
did.
was a troubled man after that event.
After all of that, I mean, and there were two trials. The first trial ended in a hung jury. The second trial, they were acquitted, all white jury. The judge on the case was Judge Frank Murphy, who later became mayor of Detroit, governor of Michigan, and then Franklin Roosevelt appointed him to the Supreme
U.S.
Court.
Supreme Court. Yep.
And what was so good about Judge Frank Murphy was the fact that he insisted on fairness. He was really into that. He insisted. In fact, during the trial, his mother died during the trial.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, a lot was happening. I did my research on
Fantastic.
that.
The historical
Yeah.
Frank Murphy Hall of Justice.
Yeah, so
Yeah,
that's
I'm
that
saying,
same name. Frank Murphy was, all the way to the Supreme Court, from mayor to Supreme Court, held just about every government position that you could.
Oh,
but yeah.
also, before we start on to our subject matter, I just kind of want to talk about this for a minute. Yesterday, I saw a video of this man. I think he was in Chicago. He was watering his lawn, and these two guys came up and
I heard about it.
they tried to rob him, and then they shot him in the stomach.
Yeah.
They shot him, and the man's in the hospital and everything. Why don't we focus on things like that? Why are we? I mean, we have to focus, of course, on Black Lives Matter and what happens to our black men and women. But what about what's happening within the community? It's like crickets.
Yeah.
It's crickets.
Well, I think that these tragedies happen far too often in places like Chicago, places like Detroit. You do see a response, but in large part, I think we've become immune. Minister Malik Shabazz has held midnight marches against crime.
I don't think that stuff works.
Well,
I'm
you're doing one tomorrow.
Right.
Well,
It certainly brings awareness to a situation, and what it does is it prods people to become involved. And so, what's happening now in this day, people feel like they have too much to lose. And so, just let me give you an example. As you know, in 1955, I believe is the year where they boycotted the bus system in Montgomery, Alabama.
Right, it was.
Do you know how much that took for everybody to say, I'm not going to ride the bus, right?
I'm going to walk.
And so we tried to boycott a particular store that operated with no heat in the wintertime. The lights wasn't on. They would talk to your kids. And people who don't have vehicles wouldn't listen because that was the closest store to them.
Yeah.
So it's all about individualism. And so that's the reason why crime is able to thrive within the community as such, because everybody is vested in themselves and not in the community. We have to get people to get invested back in the community and realize
Absolutely.
that
You're right
if
about
one
that.
person lose something, we all lose something.
Yeah.
We can't, just keep it to ourselves. And I think
Challenging.
that's a big problem, yeah.
Yeah, challenging each other with love. Because if you don't, if you see a crime and you don't report it, it's the broken house, broken glass theory, broken window theory. Excuse me. What happens is the window gets broken, and then somebody sees it as an opportunity to break in the house and steal the copper. And after somebody steals the copper, somebody feels the need to go steal the brick. Now, if you address the broken window in the first place, if you challenge, wrong from Jump Street, if you will, it sort of motivates others. It can motivate others. I think that we have to continually do it. I mean, I think there are responses to crime, but far too often we don't challenge as a community, and we are too busy, doing what we're doing, or look the other way, or
Right.
I didn't see that. Somebody saw something. Generally that's what
Well,
happens.
if you have a real vested interest in your community,
Right.
it seems like you'd want to keep things right.
They do, but at what expense?
Yeah, that's what I was getting to. Do you think you'll be caught if you drop a dime on somebody?
I don't even think it's necessarily about being caught. I think if this guy gets shot, I don't want to get shot, so I'm not going to say anything or do anything.
Yeah.
But if we all stand up, somebody's going to lose, right? Somebody's going to get shot, somebody's going to get killed. But at what expense are we willing to stand up and make it better for the next generation or the people that's coming behind us? So we all are just going about our life and making sure I'm safe, making sure I'm protected. But you look out your window and you can see all chaos and you won't do a thing as long as you're safe.
It is amazing, Darnell. You brought up the Montgomery boycott, bus boycott in 1955. It is amazing when you think about for 381 days, black folks refused to ride the buses. Women had to get to their jobs, to do housework. People had to sacrifice. I mean, it tremendous sacrifice. Exactly. And you don't really see that anymore. And the times are such that we're going to have to do some of that. I mean, last week at the Trump rally, you find a black person who's supporting Donald Trump and comes down to just be a fly in the ointment. It's just I don't know. Sometimes I think we just, you have to play devil's advocate or be the outside person, or there's always somebody in that crowd.
And so just to put it in perspective, an individual in 1955 who had a vehicle, who drove to work every day to and from by himself, now he committed to giving other people rides every day to and from outside of his normal.
It's an amazing thing.
And so, there's a young woman that comes by the firehouse. I say young because I call all women young, but she's 94, right? And all she wants is a ride 4 blocks to the church, right? And so we make it happen.
She gets there.
We need more people to get involved in everyday lives in the community. Know the people in your neighborhood. Know the people in your community. Know your neighbors. Live next door. We have to get back to that.
Right. As I was growing up in the 60s, in in Detroit.
I believe you.
In my neighborhood, as a child, and I was growing into my teenage years and stuff.
Young girl in the 60s, very
we
young.
Knew that even if we went several blocks, you never know. We were still kind of careful about what we did because somebody would tell. Exactly. Somebody knew us. We kind of knew, and people weren't afraid to tell your parents a doggone thing or your mother or whatever. I mean, I got beat on hearsay a lot of times. Hearsay got me beat.
And what, a video camera? No,
video camera.
Didn't have cell phones.
Nothing.
But somehow that word got back home before you even walked in the door.
Talk about
little bird flew over.
Talking drums. But my thing is, and I was talking to Les this morning. He was here at the station, and I was saying, okay, Memorial Day was particularly violent in Chicago, and it was very violent here. It was very violent in Detroit.
I think 32.
I think people talking about coming in and fixing. I kind of think it has to go from the inside out, don't you?
I wouldn't necessarily agree. I think on the inside, I think we have a lot of hills to climb, for lack of a better term. But we need.
When you say hills to climb, are you saying to get people to take ownership of their community?
Exactly, definitely. Sure, we do need new infrastructure because what that brings is diversification. I think diversification is the key to some communities as well. I mean, we grew up in a utopian society where your neighbors was black, your police chief was black, your school principal was black, and so everything was black. But you go to some places where you have Asians on your left, Indians on your right. It becomes a melting pot, and so once you start learning and appreciating, I believe, different cultures, I think that that elevates you to a degree.
Yeah, I mean, I think about it now. In my neighborhood, we do a flower planting Saturday in the spring and May. It helps to beautify the neighborhood, number one. It helps neighbors to talk to each other. So we do a cookout after that, and it's sort of an all-day thing. And you think about, particularly I live in Detroit, and naturally it's a very transient city. People tend to move from neighborhood to neighborhood to neighborhood. Some of it is economic. I think a lot of it is economic. So you don't necessarily get a chance to know who your neighbor is. That neighbor might be there for 2 or 3 years and be gone. But we do have to do more of that. And I don't know. I think if your question was, do we do it from the inside, banding together as neighbors and doing things and promoting, promoting each other.
Okay, for example, we want this crime to stop.
Yeah.
The police aren't getting the crime to stop.
Right.
Okay, initiatives like the Walk Against Violence,
Yep.
everything that, and putting pressure on the police department.
Mm-hmm.
Because how is downtown so much safer
Yeah.
than my
Well,
neighborhood?
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh,
Well, we've
sorry.
got a reporting a crime reporting mechanism that we do via email. In our neighborhood, we decided that's what we wanted to do. We went through. It's very public. We went through an episode with Kim where her car was either stolen or
all the time,
vandalized
right.
a half dozen times in maybe 3 or 4 months. We continually band together as a community. The police have respond to it. The response time in our neighborhood is pretty doggone good, but it's because we forge those relationships with the police, and we go to police community relations meetings, and to the extent that police are not, they don't move around from a department to precinct a lot, so you get a chance to know the officers in the neighborhood. It also helps that we've got a neighbor who knows a police officer, and so there's a police car sometimes just parked at times, and that's a deterrent.
And that's why,
Can
I
be a
don't
deterrent.
agree with at-large city council members. I think the council members should come from the community which they represent, because once you become at-large and you given a salary, then you move into a nice neighborhood.
Yeah.
The constituents or the people that you represent, when they complain about streetlights and you go look outside and yours are on,
Yeah.
you don't
Yeah.
have the same plight as
Right,
them.
right.
know?
You don't have.
And when they
right.
cry that drug dealers and stuff, and you don't live there, you don't have the same plight. So you really lost connection with them. But to go back to what Ken was saying, when you have that community base, when you know everybody on the block, for example,
Right.
all the way down to the corner, like we used to do, you
Yeah.
know, that lends to some type of community policing. Because if somebody gets shot down the street and you don't know them, never knew who they were, you don't think nothing of it. But
But
if
you
it
do
was
think that
old
that's
man
kinda
Mr.
close
Johnson,
to me.
it does. But if you knew it was old man Mr. Johnson who, walks his dog every day,
Right.
everybody would be upset and up in arms and willing to do something about it. And so as long as you don't know the person, you really don't have that connection there.
Yeah, the having your representatives live in your neighborhood is definitely a plus. State Rep Stephanie Chang lives a half mile away from me. I see Mary Sheffield, city councilwoman, jogging all the time, and it's important because we had a tradition in Detroit where you had at-large city council members, and you would have like 5 or 6 of them living in the same neighborhood. They're all like in Rosedale Park. It's like, and sometimes a couple of them right around the block from each other. But all those things are important. But even more important is just really sort of knowing your neighbor. And you don't have to be all in their business. You don't have to play bridge with them on Saturday night. But you look after each other. Hey, listen, we're going to be gone for a weekend. Look out. You look out. It's those things are important, and you find that in neighborhoods where that happens, the crime. There are fewer incidents of crime. I don't live too far from the King homes. The people have dubbed that Little Vietnam. But I've seen over the last couple of years, particularly with Chief Craig. In his tenure, there are police cars that go up and down Lafayette and Larned all the time, St. Albans.
Strides are being
You're in
made.
that area, Ken. You are in that
Well, I'll
area.
give you a better one.
But you're never far in Detroit. You're never more than a half dozen blocks away
I know.
from
You're
Blight.
right.
I don't
You're
care where.
Exactly.
I don't care if it's Lafayette Park or Indian Village or Rosedale Park.
Rosedale.
I lived in Russell Woods.
Right.
Nicholas Hood lived across the
Sure
street
did,
from
for
me.
years.
And Kwame Kilpatrick lived around
on
the
Leslie,
corner.
yeah.
Right? Police presence was very, he was out there.
Right. We have a call. Mark is on the line. Good morning. Good morning, Mark.
Good morning. How you doing?
Just fine, thanks.
I brought this up about a week ago. If you're on the city council, whatever area that you're supposed to take care, you should live in that area. I think it should be mandatory that you live in that area, that you're getting paid to look after. It don't even make no sense. Come on. Thinking that I'm making $80,000 a year and I'm living downtown, by the river, but I'm supposed to be guarding Linwood and Dexter area, but I don't live in the area. So I don't know what's going on in the area because I don't live there. You can call me and tell me, but if I live there, I can see it for myself. Like you take my man sitting next to you, he a fireman, am I right?
Yes, sir.
Right.
Yeah, okay. where he work, everybody in this neighborhood know him.
Yeah.
I know him because he make himself known in the area where he work at. Everybody know he's a good guy. Everybody know him. So I feel the same way about city council. Since we pay for their car, we pay for their gas, their car insurance, they get good medical insurance. I've been in Detroit 52 years, and I count on one hand how many times I've seen the city council in my neighborhood. Have a good day.
Thank you
Well,
very much.
well, you know, it's good to hear Mark's call. I remember, you know, years ago when I was serving on the Charter Commission, a lot of callers to the shows here on HBR would challenge the council by district concept all the time. In fact, we'll probably hear from somebody, Tyrone or somebody will call in. I'm going to talk him up, but but yeah.
Well, let's kind of get to some of the topics that we're talking about. And we're going to go through this kind of quickly because I want them to talk about a couple of other events that are coming up that are very important. But the other night I watched the Commander-in-Chief Forum with Hillary Clinton and George Bush, and I felt that night
Donald Trump.
I mean, Donald Trump.
But sometimes
where was
you do. I mean, on
Where
an
was
intelligence
I?
level,
What was I
you
thinking?
do have to.
No,
Yeah, but Donald Trump.
Donald Trump. And I watched how Matt Lauer spent 15 minutes talking about emails. And then Donald Trump, he asked him, the first question was, you say you know better than the generals. And Donald Trump never answered it. He softballed Donald Trump to death. And all I could put on Twitter was white men.
Yeah. Well, I saw it, and I agree with a lot of the social media traffic and some of the reporting that suggested that Lauer was definitely easier on Trump than Hillary Clinton.
Do you think he was out of his comfort zone? Or?
I don't think it's that. I mean, here's one comparison to Bush and Trump, the second Bush. I think a lot of times with the reporters, particularly the reporters that do a lot of policy and they understand a lot about government, I think the expectations are so low that they have for Donald Trump that they allow him to sort of get away with, not providing meat to the bone. They allow him to talk in circles and in platitudes. Everything's going to be great. I'm going to be terrific. She is a disaster. Where is your plan? And I think what happens with Hillary is because she is a policy wonk, and she can talk sometimes in a way and it gets into the weeds. And so some of that, there's a upside to that for her and a downside. I think the upside is people look at her and they, even if they don't like her, I think they recognize that she's smart. But I think because of that, you kind of play to the level. Here's the analogy: sort of kind of play to the level of the competition, right? If you're the reporter, you're sort of asking deeper questions because the person's giving you deeper responses, and then the other guy is just like it's a comedy show,
right? And to be honest, Donald Trump is a businessman, right? And we know that Donald Trump is not a politician. Right. He hasn't produced any plans, economic, foreign policies, national security. I'm sure he has people that are briefing him, but Donald Trump does what Donald Trump has been doing his whole life, which is primarily what he wants to. So although they are briefing him, he gets on stage and he says what he wants to. He hasn't answered any questions simply because he's in unfamiliar water. At the end of the day, he's in unfamiliar water. If he's elected president, he will be in unfamiliar water.
I never think, and I'm thinking about Lauer. I don't watch a whole lot of the Today Show. I've watched it enough over the years. I never really thought he was sort of a very probing and, his interviewing style. I've never thought a whole lot about him being a strong interviewer in the first place. I think that they probably would have been better off getting somebody who knows, and this was a particular topic. So, having somebody who understood defense and understood, the reporting of that, have some sort of history of past presidents and how they performed in terms of foreign policy and the military and the like. I just thought Lauer, wasn't a great interviewer interviewer to start with, and I think he did do an uneven and lopsided job, to be sure.
Yeah, and so like and partially he was a sensationalist interviewer because he was on like morning shows, right?
Well, Today's Show is, I mean, I laugh all the time. My wife watches the Today Show, and I just kind of feel like it's entertainment news most of the time.
Yeah.
I mean, you know,
Exactly.
they're at the Olympics, or where in the world is Matt, you know, or, you know.
Or they do
never-
a cooking segment that lasts 2 minutes.
Yeah.
Right. And so was he a good choice to
No, I
do
don't
that?
think
I
so.
don't believe.
But it was
so.
NBC, you know, NBC's a sponsor, and so
Yeah,
but there are
but-
other people that maybe from the cable channel. That
They should.
I like that Tamron Hall.
Tamron holds their
Oh,
feet to
man.
the fire.
She's
Yeah.
fine,
She,
too.
yeah, she is quite cute.
She's beautiful.
But
but
she
she-
holds
yeah.
their feet to the fire.
Saw the
So
other-
does Joanne Reed.
Joanne Reed is very good. I
She's
think she would have done a great
excellent.
job, too.
She is excellent. Oh my goodness.
Yeah,
I
I-
would love to interview her.
Yeah, but yeah, Lauer, there's no question. I mean, I think it was lopsided, and I don't know if he's, you know, I don't know if he's down with Trump. I'm not going that far. I just think that I think he just allowed Trump to sort of get away with things because I think almost everybody has.
Well,
I
like
mean,
they've been saying that they're grading him on a curve.
yeah,
Of course.
well, that's kind of that's
Yeah.
actually a better way to put it. I mean, the expectations are lower of him, and so I think they just say, look, you know. And you don't want to. The other part of it is, I think they don't want to feel like they're steering, or you know, that they. You're supposed to have this level of objectivity, and I think some of these reporters are concerned that, you know, if they really went after him, it might be perceived as having a bias as opposed to, you know, asking, you know,
But I'm
straight questions.
But you know, I'm off about being fair. You're running for the president of the United States. I'm looking for equality and fairness. So if you pitch in Hillary fastballs and she has a broom handle, why are you pitching Donald Trump Nerf balls and he got one of those big wiffle ball plastic bats,
Right.
right?
Yeah, well,
Absolutely.
yeah, absolutely.
That was a good.
Yeah, that's
that
very
was
good.
good.
Oh, you're on the ball today, Donnie.
That
I
was
got to
good.
take all this stuff home with
was
me.
excellent.
But no, and look, and as we've talked about also in the past, I mean, obviously there's a degree of sexism that's happening here. It's the
Absolutely.
first time you've had a woman as a
Absolutely,
major
because
candidate.
he said, Donald Trump said 2 days ago, she doesn't look presidential.
Yeah. What does that-
are you
what does that
saying?
mean? Yeah,
What are you
yeah.
saying? That's a very sexist remark.
Right. And neither does he, by the way.
Thank you.
Right.
He looks
Yeah.
more like the Universal Soul Circus went white.
Yeah,
you know?
right.
But he just, I mean, I just think he's awful. He plans to more urban visits.
Yeah,
Now,
yeah.
let's talk a little bit about last week. He wasn't supposed to speak. He spoke. He claims he wrote the speech himself,
Yep.
yet he was reading it.
He was clearly reading it.
Yeah, he was reading it.
Didn't have a teleprompter, but he clearly had notes that he would look down enough to know that he was essentially articulating what was on the paper. All right, so I'll give him a little bit of credit. Last Friday when we were here, I talked about the fact that that he wasn't going to talk to the audience. You know, he did. It's still different it's still different to sort of take questions and have a dialogue with people as opposed to talking to people. I'll give him some credit for that. I'm told I couldn't see a good pan of the sanctuary, but
It was
people told me it
small.
was People told me it was only
small.
half full.
It was
I mean,
small. We
yeah.
have a call. We
Yeah.
have Ordinary Joe on the line.
All right.
Good morning. Good morning.
Not to be confused with morning.
Hello.
Good morning, Sally Jesse Raphael.
Why do
And
you
good
do
morning to your two guests.
Good
I
morning.
wanted to chime in on Hillary Clinton and the Donald, as Barack Obama calls him. You know, guys, I believe that the Republican Party could not exist without the Democratic Party. In essence, they are one and the same. Most people don't know that the Knights of the Round Table formed the Ku Klux Klan. And the Ku Klux Klan comes from the Democratic Party. So, let's fast forward all the way up to right now. I believe in my heart that Donald Trump is the alter ego of Barack Obama, Bill Clinton, and Hillary Clinton. They all have the same inert agenda. And there's a extremely tactical interviewer on the station called Dr. Dieta
Wilcoxon.
Wilcoxon. She always says that during voting time, black people are standing on the precipice of change. We are the ones whose vote is most important in this election, and it is imperative that we do vote for Hillary Clinton. But we have to have an agenda. Let's not just vote for a politician because we're Democratic or we are Republican. Let's take to these politicians an agenda of what we want here as black people in the United States of America.
That's fair.
I was listening to you guys speak earlier, and Brenda, you said that we should approach things from an internal perspective, and the fireman gentleman disagree with that. Well, I agree with you completely on that, Brenda. And black people, traditionally, we would approach medicine from an internal perspective, young man. And if we get ourselves together internally and act as one, we can present an agenda to these politicians that are garnering our vote. All right, I hope I didn't take up too much of you guys' time.
Good comment.
And thanks for taking my call.
Good point.
Yeah, great comment. I think it's more than fair. The history of the major political parties, both Democrats and Republicans. I mean, there's unfortunate history as it relates to us in both parties. I mean,
Absolutely.
look. I mean,
Exactly.
the reality is this is a country that Africans in this country were slaves for many decades, and so the vestiges of that permeated all facets of America, institutions, government, political parties, all of it. I think what's important now, and I don't, as a historian, I think it's very important to point out where the parties were 100 years ago or even 50 years ago. But the reality right now is I would argue there's a very different agenda between the Democrat and Republican Party, and certainly that this Tea Party renegade populist Trump wing of the Republican Party. There are clear differences. I don't think there hasn't been a presidential campaign in my lifetime where the differences between the two nominees are
Weren't more
so
stark.
yeah, absolutely.
Very stark.
Exactly.
But,
Absolutely.
see, I know the history of the Democratic Party. I know that in the 60s, when all the civil rights stuff was going on, many of them left the Democratic Party and became
Dixiecrats,
Republicans and so forth and so on.
Sure.
And but as far as right now goes, if we could be monolithic only in thought and our needs as a community, monolithic in that way.
Sure.
We're not monolithic people, we all have our different levels and stuff like that.
Right.
But if we could be monolithic in thought
Just
and
don't-
have an agenda.
Just on November the 8th, let's start there.
Yes,
And we can
Yes.
start the party, start the
Yes.
independent platform thing.
Because I watch the station a lot, and I
Yeah.
hear people call in talking about we need our own schools, we need our own this, that, and the other
I
thing.
understand.
The schools, as far as the schools are concerned, we just need better schools. We
All the
have
way
some
around,
really,
yes.
really good schools and some bad schools, whether it's all black teachers or all white teachers or mixed teachers.
Right.
I had some good white teachers. I had some good. I never had black teachers in high school.
Okay.
But I'll be honest with you, I worked with a lot of teachers.
Sure.
There were some great black teachers and there were some not so great black teachers. There were not so great white teachers and not so great black teachers also. So, I mean, that's all individual. It depends on the administration, and you have to be accountable to those kids. It's very, very important.
And it's a two-way street. Parents have to
Right.
send kids to school ready to learn.
Ready to learn, and they have to
Right.
send them. A lot of times,
Yeah.
absenteeism.
Yeah.
Baby, you got to stay home and babysit. I got somewhere to go. Or the mother doesn't get home, or the father,
In
but so
time to
forth.
get them out of the
But
door.
I think, and then I'm going to go back to this Trump visit. Detroit Police Department had it on lockdown.
Of course. As well they should. I mean, we don't want to, we don't want this to turn into, what was that, Colorado or whatever.
Oh, where they were throwing things?
Right. We need order. I think people should be able to go out and protest peacefully. I don't want to see anybody get hurt. I don't want to see anybody get arrested. But what I do want is an open forum, and this goes for Hillary as well. Hillary and Donald Trump, they should be available to the people to ask questions. And I know they can't, sit in a room of 500 people and answer everybody's question. But the forum should be open to everybody, because I'm just as concerned about Donald Trump politics as I am with Hillary Clinton's. And so it's not just one-sided for me.
She did hold a news conference this week.
Yeah,
the streak is over.
Right, and so, but I think
But
that's
I
what we
understand your
need.
point, though. I mean, more dialogue is
It's
more.
really needed. And
Look,
so, Trump comes. Thank you, my brother. And so Trump comes in with his. And we still haven't heard this platform, right? We still don't know
Well,
what,
you're really
his
not.
plans
You're
are.
really not going to hear it. I mean, there's 60 days left, and so just as some people are said up until this week that Hillary Clinton was trying to run down the clock, if you will, run out the clock, if you will, by kind of running away from news conferences. Trump is, and when this campaign does say that he's offering a platform on a particular issue, it really isn't a platform.
Yeah, it's
it
not.
really is just it's the same old, bombastic, demagogic.
And part of his
demagogic
immigration,
stuff. Yeah.
part of his immigration platform was what Obama's already doing.
Yeah, and that was the other thing. I mean, when
and
he did offer
he just
something.
shouting it. He
Well,
just-
but he talks out of both sides of his mouth. So he says that in Arizona, and then the next day he goes back to something very different, and we still don't know about. I mean, he is we're going to build a wall, and Mexico is going to pay for it. I mean, this. How can you? How is that going to happen?
Right.
I mean,
And
it's not going to happen,
really
and
amazing.
everybody knows it's not going to happen.
Right. Well, what's really amazing, Ken, is if Donald Trump came out there at the beginning and said, "I'm going to have fact checkers
Right.
running around with chickens without, chickens without a head," right?
Yeah.
Because that's exactly what's happening. You can't fact check anything he's saying.
Right.
It's unbelievable. And so when you watch him, the statement he made was, "I know more than the generals." It's like, and then to hear a bunch of high-ranking
how do you know
officers
more than the
endorsed
generals?
him this past
But,
week.
but those officers, did you read about them? They were people who were disgraced. A lot of them were disgraced generals.
I'm not
Okay.
surprised.
One of them was the general.
So there was an agenda
One
there.
of them was the general who had something to do with the plane that crashed that Ron Brown was on.
Oh.
Yes, these were a lot of them were disgraced generals. So that didn't count like it maybe should have.
Right.
But he's going to be doing more outreach to black communities. I just don't believe.
Look, I can't.
And I'm a Rosa. Oh God! And
Well,
then there's-
did you see the photo of? I think Rochelle Riley took it because it was with her column. But there's a photo of all of them in Great Faith Ministries, and Trump is holding up a baby
I know.
and kissing the baby, and Omarosa's right on. Flanked on his wing, just smiling and stuff, and the baby is crying. Probably just naturally because the baby, was a toddler and the baby's crying. But people on Facebook were like, "Caption this."
Oh,
what's going on?
God,
in
those
this?
turned into memes.
And so, memes. And so, Omarosa was all types of, from the very extreme to I can't say on the show to
Well, there's
Aunt
another
Jemima
minister with a mustache who was with him. I forgot his name.
Black guy?
Black guy.
Okay.
He was on CNN the other night.
not this Mark. No, because he doesn't have a mustache.
No, not
the,
him.
Not the warm up
Huh?
guy.
It might have been. Well, the guy said.
he's
they
supporting
said,
Trump.
"Don't you think that Donald Trump should apologize to Barack Obama for saying that he was not an
birther.
American, that birth thing?" And this guy kept on saying, "No, why should he have to?" And this and that. I mean,
Of course.
I mean, people are drinking his bathwater. I hope they're getting paid good for it. Listen, there were 4 suicides in the Wayne County Jail in the past 5 months. What's going on?
Yeah, I don't know. It's when I saw this as a topic, it really I hadn't realized that, and I just might have saw an isolated report about one or the other, but did not know that the number was within a period of time. It's almost reminiscent, Darnell, of the challenges that the Detroit Police Department had at 1300 Bobby in the old police headquarters.
Right.
The actions that caused the federal government to come in, or the Department of Justice to come in and really sort of put the clamps on how the Detroit Police Department operated the lockup on the 9th floor at 1300 Beaubien. Some of the same things, some of the same challenges that the police department had, seemingly Wayne County has in the old jail. It's unfortunate, especially when all you have to do is go around the block and see the Facano Fortress sitting there.
Yeah.
And you say, what could have been? You know?
Right.
Yeah.
Like I told Michelle when I first saw it, this was the other year, we were going somewhere, and I said, is that going to be a hotel?
Yeah.
Because it looked
'Cause
like
it
those
looks
were
like the little pop.
balconies.
Yeah, yeah.
It looked
Right.
like balconies.
Yeah, those are tears.
Yeah.
Tears.
Tears.
I
yeah.
mean, and
those were cell tears.
and the steel was turned. You know, it's rusted. It really is a shame. And at least in my reading of the story, you know, part of what they're saying is the building is inadequate to be able to, you know, to be able to provide the proper surveillance for inmates, and that is some of that. Some of the deaths could have maybe been prevented if they had cameras or whatever the surveillance equipment is to sort of make sure that prisoners, even in a county lockup, aren't a danger to others or themselves.
That's true.
But so that issue has to get solved. But I don't know that it. And so I raised the unfinished jail because I really think that's probably going to be, you're going to have this challenge at the old building until they figure out how to finish that one, the new one.
And that building itself isn't that old.
No, not relatively
What,
speaking.
Dickerson?
I mean, no. This is the
one downtown.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
No, it's not. But I mean, part of 1940s and 50s and even some 60s architecture really wasn't the architecture of the decades before, and so lots of structures in Detroit and all over the country were shabbily built in comparison to their predecessors.
Exactly. And so I believe, that on top of what we know to be the number one problem is overcrowding. The bullpen situation is something, and if you've never been in a jail setting or a prison, is unbelievable. The bullpen setting.
Unless you're Kwame Kilpatrick, and then you get fish bones catered to you when you serve your 90 days.
Really?
Exactly. And so I've been over to Mound Road to take a tour of that facility. The conditions are better over on Mound Road per se, but still deplorable. According to mighty standards, and I don't have any prison standards. I mean, I've never been, but just the whole system itself is designed to a weaker-minded individual.
Right, and it's not designed to rehabilitate.
Exactly. It's designed to house.
Did any of you see The Night Of?
No, is that a
on
movie?
HBO?
No, I don't think so. Sorry.
So many people. The Night Of, it was a mini-series starring John Turturro.
Okay.
It's about this young Indian, he was Indian or Arab
I saw pieces
young
of
man
it. Not a
who
lot.
was arrested for the murder of this girl that he probably did not commit, but it had a lot of scenes in jail. Omar from The Wire.
From The Wire.
He was in
He
it.
was in it.
But it was just really, really interesting about the inside of a jail and just the politics that go on inside the jail among the inmates. And,
Well, that I did not see that miniseries, but it sounds a lot like, and I think where you're going, another example was the old HBO series Oz.
I remember.
And all types of politics and
we have Theo on the line. Good morning.
You're talking to this lady on the.
Good morning, Theo.
Oh, okay.
Hello.
Talk to this lady on the counter.
Pardon?
The last
She
thing I need.
doesn't know she's on. Theo, good morning.
Yes.
Happy
Can you hear
Friday.
me? Oh, happy Friday to you all.
Hi, how are you?
Hi, thank you.
I'm doing wonderful. The phone is up a bit now. I was calling because you were speaking about the jails and all of that, and I think it's awful that all of the millions have been spent and continue to be spent monthly on that jail that's over on where is it, on Grand River, Michigan, Grand River, I guess. Anyway, last night I attended the police commission meeting, and they are proposing tasers.
Tasers, yeah.
I think that would be the worst thing
Tasers.
to happen.
Tasers.
And they were there was, I should say, a panel there. In addition to the police commissioners, there were 3 police commissioners who were well prepared. The rest of them didn't appear to have bothered to look up any information. And, of course, there was Reggie Crawford and Conrad Mallon and Ricardo Moore, who were well prepared. Now, the issue that was brought out by the panel was that, this is less lethal force, so the officers need to be armed with more tools in their box to quell the issues. Well, it seems to me that the neighborhood policing had been improving the situation in our community. And to come along and start talking about more violence when our people are hearing violence in the videos, movies, and music, and all of this other stuff, that just adds to it. There were opportunities for people in the audience to speak, of course, and the votes from the, they call them electronic weapons. Taser was what they're called most commonly. 50,000 votes from the taser. And when you talk about the continuum force, which means what does an officer do first, second, third, and fourth, they couldn't decide whether the taser should be before the baton or after the baton.
So Theo, let me ask you a question, because I didn't get a chance. I usually watch or rebroadcast of the police commission meeting, so I'll take a look at it later this weekend. But let me ask you a process question, because I'm not sure that everybody knows where we are on the issue. Is it a proposal to from the police department to the commission?
The administration wants to purchase tasers.
I see. And so
they've not even completed the purchasing of cameras, body cameras.
Yeah.
Right.
Now, it was stated yesterday that the tasers today come with cameras on them, okay, and that would be a necessary component as far as I'm concerned. If they're hell-bent on getting them, they're going to get them anyway.
So Chief Craig is advocating for that. I just want to be clear.
The first project, as I was saying, of the cameras. Now, the problem I have with the tasers is this. Tasers kill. And there's plenty of statistics to show that tasers kill. And somebody says, well, would you rather have a taser pointed at you or a gun? I say neither one. Yeah. There are 6 young men in Mississippi who were killed with tasers by the police.
Well, I'm happy to see. I'm certainly glad that at least the police administration is taking it to the Board of Police Commissioners, some of whom are elected, of course. Others are appointed, but at least there's a public discussion that we're having about whether or not that's what we want to see. That is the beauty. I mean, that's one of the things I fought for when I was on the Charter Commission. I mean, because there were people that didn't want to keep that Board of Police Commissioners, or at least wanted to strip the body of its powers. This is exactly why I think you need a body like that. I'm not sold necessarily on tasers. I need to study the issue, but at least I'm happy that they took it to the Board of Police Commissioners.
And they need approval from the board.
Right.
Well, Theo,
but you know, the sad part is there didn't seem to be any understanding of this. Police officers have guns. The cooks in the community got guns.
When are the police commission
So you don't
meetings?
think that if they get tasers, the ones in the community are going to get tasers too? And what about tasers being used to torture the people in the community?
Yeah.
It's a bad move. It really is. When things seem to have been improving, they go and turn around and do something dumb like this.
Well, the next meeting is Tuesday, Ken said.
Thursday,
Ken said. So maybe more in our audience would
Thanksgiving or some other
come
holiday.
and see it.
Yeah.
But the meeting that is best as far as I'm concerned is the one that comes on the second 30th Thursday of each month in the community. They move them around the city.
Okay.
Because you have people, participating, and
Yeah.
the other ones are held at the headquarters. And that's just
Certainly
basically the
appreciate
officers in the community.
Thank you. I appreciate your call. We're kind of short on time now.
Okay.
But thank you for keeping us informed on that. And it's the what meeting of the
So it's
Police
the board of the
Board of
Detroit
Police
police
Commissioners.
commissioners every Thursday. Is it 3 or 4 o'clock, Theo? Every Thursday.
At 3 o'clock.
Every Thursday at 3.
Thursday.
It's written
Unless
into the
it's
charter
in the community, then it's at
that
6.
they have to meet every week unless it's Christmas or
Right, or Thanksgiving or some
Thanksgiving.
holiday. They meet
Thank you.
every week.
Okay, thank you so much. And you have a great weekend.
You too.
And
Thank you.
I owe you a call, Theo.
Absolutely.
Okay. Yeah, take it to task.
Oh no, this
Now,
is a good
we
thing.
have a
This is good
couple
thing.
of things. I'm first start with Darnell about 9/11 because you made the other.
Great. So today at 11 o'clock at Campus Marshes, there'll be a 9/11 ceremony. If you can make it down, I know it's kind of late now, but if you can make it down, please do. Sunday, as a matter of fact, the Detroit Tigers are honoring firefighters with a ceremony before the game.
Are you going?
Yes, I'll be there. They'll be inviting tons of firefighters and their families and friends out. So I'll be there for that as well. And come on out and enjoy the baseball game.
Yeah, 9/11. It just 15 years.
It's
believe it.
amazing how fast
Amazing.
the time goes.
Do you remember where you were?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I was at work.
You were?
Yeah, I was
I
at
was
work.
actually a reporter at the Michigan Front Page. People forget that was election day in Detroit. It was the primary election day, the Gill Hill Kwame Kilpatrick matchup.
It sure was that year.
So started out that day doing that reporting, but by late morning, everything became 9/11 became far more important than any election.
I was in
So-
my classroom, and a student came in and said, Miss Perriman, a plane ran into the World Trade Center, turn on the television. And we were transfixed.
Yeah, all
And
day.
by
The rest of the
afternoon,
week.
parents were coming, getting their kids out of school. My son had just landed in Tokyo, and he called me that evening. He said, Mom, what's happening? You want to be near people you love
Yeah,
at that
absolutely,
time.
at that time.
And he said, what's happening? He said, because he was in a bar, of course. Anyway, he was in a bar, and all of a sudden, and it's Japanese. And you know how many Japanese worked at the
Oh,
World
yeah.
Trade?
Of
Said
course.
phones just started going off the hook. And that's how he found out. Then he said, Mom, we can't fight them. We don't know how to fight them. I'll never forget that day. Now, Ken
Every day.
didn't bring a copy of a book. It looks
Because
just like
because
this.
it's at the printer. It's still
mean,
I thought I
gee.
would have it today. I'm sorry.
All right.
But I will have them a week from tomorrow, September the 17th. Excited about the publication of my 4th book. It's called Forever Young, The Coleman Reader. And as the title might show you, that it's a book about Coleman Young, Detroit's first African American mayor. And I'm excited about the book. It's been received well. And if you're able to come
I
out,
would like to see it.
Yep. So it's going to be you'll get an advanced copy, right? Maybe Wednesday when it's in. But so it's next Saturday, September the 17th. It's being hosted at Eric's I've Been Framed, a great custom art store on the northwest side, located at 16527 Livernois.
It's across from U of D.
It's
isn't
across from U of D.
Yes.
And so Eric Vaughn is the proprietor. He's the son of the legendary Ed Vaughn. And Ed Vaughn operated as his last bookstore at that site. So people can remember Vaughn's bookstore in Livernois. It's the same location, 16527. I'll sign the book. And interesting, we're going to have a panel discussion about Coleman Young and a panel of people
Who's
who worked for
Arletta
him.
Douglas?
Arletta Douglas worked for Mayor Young for nearly 20 years. She was one of several people that, or a few people that really was with the mayor almost his entire tenure. She headed up neighborhood city halls at one time. You might remember in 1980 when there was a severe U.S. Census undercount. Coleman Young tapped her to head the effort, the recount effort, that found thousands of people that the Census Bureau didn't
Didn't
find.
find.
So,
Right.
but Arletta
Yeah.
knows a whole lot about Coleman Young. Also, Ed Vaughn, who Ed Vaughn was an executive assistant to Coleman Young, and he is not, he's in Alabama a lot these days, but he's coming up for the signing. He'll be there, and the controversial one, Adolph Mongo, will also sit on the panel.
What was his position?
Adolph was an executive assistant as well. Adolph was a reporter at the Michigan Chronicle and was hired by Coleman Young and did a lot of media and PR things
Really?
for the mayor for several years in the mid to
I
late
would have
80s.
never thought he'd do PR.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's going to be a real strong panel discussion. Certainly, I'd like to see you come out. Even if you're not interested in the book, it's a great opportunity to learn more about Detroit's first African-American mayor.
It's 1 to 5 next Saturday, the 17th of September.
Yeah. And again, we'll be there from that 1 to 5 period. We'll do a panel discussion, maybe like from 2 to 4. I'll
You
sign
say
books
it's
as
a
well.
reader.
Yeah, it's a reader. So it's set up a lot like On This Day. There's one section of it is a biography of the mayor, but the same process that I do on This Day, each day has a fact about Coleman Young. And it's not just his tenure as a mayor. It's his service as a Tuskegee Airman, his service as a Michigan State Senator. Even a lot of people don't know, he helped to start a Boy Scout troop when he was in the 8th grade. He attended Catholic school at St. Mary's downtown in Greektown. Coleman Young had a very, the 79 years that he lived, he had a very full life. And a lot of it is covered in Forever Young.
Right.
It seemed with all he did, he was much older than that,
Yeah. Well, like people in his generation, and they call that, Tom Brokaw is really sort of trademarked the phrase,
Right.
America's greatest generation. People like Coleman
Did you
Young were
ever
part
meet
of that.
him?
Did I ever meet Coleman? No, I did not. One thing I can say though, he was the mayor the entire time I was a child, and for several years as an adult.
Yeah.
So he was something everybody looked up to. Coleman Young.
I took my daughter, she was 2 months old, to his victory party. I just said, this is history.
It's history. Gotta
you
be there.
You don't know it, but
Yeah, right.
Right.
it's history.
Yeah.
One of the most important things Coleman did as it relates to public safety, which he had to deal with later on in his life, when he was in this up in Lansing. When he was up in Lansing, he the one who introduced Public Act 312, which is collective bargaining for firefighters, simply because we cannot strike. So
He regretted it when he became mayor.
Exactly.
Right.
He opened up Pandora's box.
Well,
Yeah.
it's time to bring this hour to a close. It goes so quickly. Gentlemen,
Yes.
you all were brilliant.
Thank you.
Just
Great to be
simply
back.
brilliant.
Great
Yes.
to be back.
Simply brilliant. And remember, get downtown.
book
I might-
signing.
Yeah,
next
book
Saturday.
signing and get downtown, and 9/11. God bless those who lost their
Hug a
lives.
firefighter.
Absolutely.
Would you hug a fire?
Hug a firefighter if you see him.
Don't you
give me
just
that
love
cold.
it? Don't you
No,
just
See you
love
next
it?
week.
Bye-bye.